All right, we're beginning our meeting, school board meeting, on Monday, November 5th, 2024, at 7 p.m. I'm going to pull the presentation and we'll get started. We good? We're ready to go? Yep. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Hilberg, good news? So, good news tonight. I'm going to begin with our career fair held just this past week at the Columbia High School gym, and it was a great event for high school students. They had an opportunity to come in and basically learn from regional folks about career opportunities, post-secondary opportunities for our students. We packed the gym, and thank you to Haley Kosek for putting a lot of time and effort into this, bringing kind of all our community partners together. But really was a great opportunity just to get our students in front of a lot of community organizations and talk about things for their future. The second part of this, I'll just give you a minute to take a look at that, but that's all feedback from some of our folks that came in and set up booths who were giving us feedback just on our students. So it was so great to hear so many great things, not only about the event itself, but also our students. So, been a good event for us, so.
Okay. Board operating principle review. Crystal, will you do the first paragraph? Second.
Sure. Take the initiative to suggest to the chair the issue might be best handled by the superintendent and/or staff. It's not that we aren't interested, but the superintendent is the person we hire to deal with these very issues.
Unanticipated controversy that is a non-agenda item should not be allowed to dominate an otherwise well-planned meeting, stating up front that, quote, there's a time limit that the concern will be dealt with formally in the next board meeting as an agenda item is an appropriate response.
When involved parties become emotional, the situation can be diffused by saying, I recognize that this is a very important issue to you. We need a chance to gather more information. Our superintendent will work with you to resolve this problem. Thank you for coming. Any changes or additions to the agenda?
No changes to tonight's agenda. It will play out exactly as it is in front of you in the agenda tonight.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. Looks like we've got 4 items. I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the 4 items?
I think that resolution 2425-02 is great.
It is something we've done in the past. So it just allows us, if given the opportunity to collect, if the state does something, we can make up that difference there. Because we lock in, remember, it each year. So that just gives us some flexibility if needed, if the opportunity arises.
Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Hearing of visitors. Anybody like to address the board today?
Yeah, we were looking for the sheet of paper that on the door to fill out, but we didn't see one.
Just the name and address. There was no, like, is that where we're supposed to put, like, our thoughts that we would like to bring to the board, or?
Nope, this is your opportunity now to speak if you'd like.
Okay.
Okay.
You want me to go first? So other school districts in the Tri-Cities have different types of parental controlling apps for their school-issued computers. And I would just like that to be something that the school should start looking into as a concerned parent of all the time that their kids have to spend online. I've tried to purchase in-home parental controls, but because of the software that's on school-issued computers, they aren't able to fully function to their technical abilities and some other jargon.
Can I ask a clarifying question, just so I understand what you're talking
Maybe.
about?
I don't know if I can clarify, but you can surely ask.
I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So you're seeking or asking regarding what type of parental control apps can be placed on the district devices that would allow parental
If there is
control
any, that
over
would
those
be nice.
devices?
Um,
Is that what you're asking?
Well, kind of yes
Okay.
and no. So I know a lot can't be put onto the computers unless it's like a district-wide or whatever. But another mom in the Pasco School District had shared that they use something and all there's one computer plus another computer in the household for that student. Their parents can actively see what they're doing, limit things, and it comes from the school, not from each individual. So I don't think it's, I don't know much about it. I would just hoping that we could seek something like that within the school district.
I've taken some notes, so I will see what we can find out about that.
I don't
I'm not
really make
familiar
much
with
sense.
what you're talking about. I can tell you on a practical side, on the district side, we do have software and things that would act similarly within our district. Let me use an example. Let's say we've got students in a classroom all opened up doing things. We have software that can view what's going on within there.
Right.
That type of thing going on within our own. But again, that works differently once you go out because you're not on our network anymore.
Right.
So there's some of those complications.
And I don't it'll stop, like, if you, obviously, if they're trying to look up porn or, you know, trying to look up some guns or something.
We have those safeguards.
But it's not just, that's not just the issue, it's the streaming. Like, if they're supposed to be at home on their computers doing homework, they're not always doing their homework. They're on YouTube because that's allowed.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't mean to interrupt her, but that, I have the same concern as her. We're friends, our kids go to school in Burbank schools, and I had called before and asked, is there any way I can limit certain websites off of it, and they said, no, you can't. So I have no control over this device if it can connect, and I would like a way to, I have the exact same concerns. You know, my nieces and nephews go to school in the Pasco School District, and they do have something that the parents can see what the kids are doing on the devices that are issued by the school. So I just was hoping that, you know, because I have called and asked, is there a way to limit certain websites, and was told no.
Sure.
I was hoping that there was a way that we could get something to monitor what our kids are doing on there. And I know it blocks certain, but my main concern is YouTube. And there is a lot on YouTube that is not appropriate for my children, and they have access to it all the time, and I don't have any way to control it unless I'm literally standing behind them, so.
Obviously, we have ways to monitor those things, but again, that's on our side. What I'd like to do is I'll just get your name and numbers before you go, and I will certainly find out what I can, and I'll just reach out to you. So,
I'm on that list right there, the door.
Yeah, yep.
perfect. If your name and numbers are on there?
Not phone numbers, but you can find us on our house, but we'll put our numbers.
If you
on
wouldn't
there.
mind just leaving that for
Yeah.
me, and I will certainly reach out to you, and I'll get you the person that can help you with that. We'll connect you on that, okay?
Yep.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thanks for the feedback.
Those sound like very legitimate, good questions, and I would be equally interested in the answers.
I think the teachers would too, just because I'm sure that there's not just our kids that are busy doing homework, but they're actually watching their YouTube shorts or whatever. Like, the grade levels are going down, but yet kids are doing homework. Well, no, they're not doing homework, those poor teachers.
I can certainly speak to a lot more, obviously, what we can do within our system, because we have certain softwares and certain things. And again, as you're alluding to, we do have softwares that monitor things. Even when they go home and come back, we're able to monitor and check those pieces. I'm not as familiar with the ability of those, what we can do on that side at home. So let me get the answer, the right information for you. And myself or someone else will reach back out to you on that. Okay? Thank you for being here, though. I appreciate it.
Okay, reports or just any discussions? Anybody else, anybody else like to address the board? Reports?
All right, I'm going to start by passing this off to Ivy to get us started with our November Student rep reports.
High school. So our winter sports just started. So that would be boys and girls basketball, our basketball cheer team, and boys and girls wrestling, which girls basketball has pulled up some 8th graders to be on the JV team. So that's pretty exciting for those 8th graders, and I'm excited for the girls that get to be on JV because that means more playing time for them, and that's really cool. Boys also have 3 teams this year, but they actually had to make cuts because too many people wanted to come out, which is good, but we had to make some cuts, so that was kind of a bummer. Here we got 2 new mats, which I'm super excited about. That means we have so much more space for tumbling and stunts, so that's really excited. College and career fair is not a sport, but it did happen. It was like
It occurred in the gym.
yeah, it's okay. Like Mr. Elbrick said, it was super duper cool. A lot of colleges came out, which is super cool, and then a lot of like resources for finding jobs after high school, and then there was a lot of like migrant worker support there, which is super cool. WSU had like 3 booths there. Like they had one for their Tri-Cities division, and then their normal, and then their newest like agriculture center. And we have a lot of ag kids, so it's really cool that they want to come out here and teach us about college and stuff. So that's really cool. Food drive is gonna start soon, so that'll be super cool. Oscar, you have anything you want to say?
Well, the college and career fair, I heard that the staff had like a lot of positive things to say about like all the students, and prizes were given out from the tickets kids earned. Only thing is that like Running Start students couldn't attend because it was early in the morning, and a lot of juniors and seniors attending UBC are currently in finals week, so we have like finals all next week. For Wednesday, Tuesday, and Monday, so.
I'm gonna jump in. I appreciate you bringing that up, because that was actually brought up in the middle of that. There was some thought afterwards, looking at that schedule, trying to split the difference in the middle of the day, because you've got your running start in the morning, and you've got AM and PM tri-tech. So there was actually a conversation afterwards, like when you think about that, if we can squeeze that somehow in the middle, which sometimes interferes with lunch, though, we might be able to catch both sides on that one. So I appreciate you bringing that up. There was some discussion about that already, about adjusting those times next year.
That makes sense, catching.
Yeah. Yep.
Mr. Ali actually provided lunch to all of the vendors with his barbecue business. So my dad actually came because he works with the electrical union, so I know he really appreciated that. Yeah, so that was super cool. It was super fun. Middle school, boys basketball has started and girls wrestling. So in the middle school, they do it at opposite times because it used to be girls could either do basketball or wrestling, and then because of the way the boys' seasons worked out, the boys could do both. And that wasn't cool. So now we do boys basketball during girls wrestling, and then girls basketball during boys wrestling. And so now it's boys basketball and girls wrestling, and the girls actually practice with the high schoolers. Which is cool because I think we only have like 1 girl high schooler, and so she gets to actually practice, so that's super cool. And then I heard that the boys basketball team for middle school is actually doing really well. I think they're undefeated. If not, they're really close to being undefeated.
We were before tonight. We had a rough day today, but, you know.
They will also be participating in the food drive. And then the ASB hosted a social to raise money, like they had a school-wide dance and games. And then they'll also be selling winter grams, so ASB is on the grind. Elementary school, the coat drive is over. The Giving Tree, run by Charity Bagley, she says there's almost no more tags left, so that's super cool. I love the Giving Tree. It's nice to give back, you know? PTO will be hosting a hot cocoa day soon, and Mrs. Allen's 2nd grade class wrote little positive messages on cup cookies for Lifeline, so when they get their cup of coffee, it'll be like, you're doing so good today, and that's super cute. Love spreading and positivity to the community, good stuff. a food concern.
FBLA is gonna be like hosting an event with the Burbank Grange for Christmas, and Mr. Gale's guitar class will be there playing songs. The kindergarteners will also be singing songs for the people at the Burbank Grange. We do this every year, but this is like the first year that we have Mr. Gale's guitar class. Knowledgeable, they had more amazing results from their last competition in December, and in November, and there's another competition coming up here in December. Did you go to the one in November?
I didn't. I was working the college and career fair, so I wasn't there personally to say how they did, but I did get a text that said they were doing good.
Well, Honor Society's finished with the code drive, but they have the blood drive and the food drive coming up. The blood drive isn't until next year, but the food drive is coming up in the next few weeks. And Honor Society has like a lot of students volunteering at the Burbank Grange every Sunday. So it's fun, and it's a good way to get our community service hours up.
That's awesome.
Questions for our reps?
A lady who I know, she's a math teacher at CBC, her name is Linda Stevenson, and she talked about some math event that the high school went to. Tina Larios took several high school students. Which math event was that?
It was the Math is Cool competition, and it was like a bunch of schools. There was more than 30 schools that attended, and we ended up getting like 4th place. And it was like, they had algebra, geometry, algebra, like pre-algebra, calculus, linear algebra. They had like a lot of things, like with your question specific.
Good. I think that's a really good thing. She mentioned that there was also going to be one targeted to the middle school students. I'll try to get the information for her. Who would be the middle school teacher on that?
Pass it on to Mr. Taylor, and then he would pass it on to the guidance teacher.
Thank you.
I think also just another event the high school's hosting. It's gonna be like I don't know what they're calling it, but we're gonna get telescopes for Earth and space science, and then also Mr. Gale's guitar class will be learning a song called Vincent, like Vincent van Gogh, and then the art class is gonna paint a starry night. I feel like we might just be calling it a starry night. And so parents will get to come and see the painting and listen to the guitar class and actually look at the stars with the telescopes. But that'll be in January, but it'll be really cool. I'm excited about it.
Good, thank you.
One more thing. FBLA will like, we're having like a lot of kids go to the FBLA national competition this year. Like a lot of kids signed up for that. So it's really fun, and that's gonna be in February.
Yeah, but as we get closer, definitely get more details about it, but yeah, good stuff.
Thank you.
And there was nothing negative I had to share either. Things are going smoothly, nicely.
Thank you.
I know a couple of them did have work to do, so I told them I was gonna dismiss them after this, so. You're welcome to take care of them. Some of them had some work to do, so.
Yeah, you're good to go.
All right. Okay. Thank you again. Sorry, I didn't.
Roll it.
Presentation, sorry, I just lost it. All right. This is Donlin.
Okay, enrollment for November. These numbers include our transitional kinders. We are at 750.62 for November. That brings our average to 747.01.
Please, the numbers are still lagging just behind where we were last year, so cautiously optimistic.
We started September at 744. November, we're at 750. Any questions on enrollment? end of October, we are at 2.7 million. And I just wanted to point out too, I just got done with the year-end financial statements, and we ended the year at 2.6 million. We ended the 2023-24 year. So that is updated, and yeah. Any questions on that? Capital project fund, as of October, we're at 310,000. Debt service fund, we are at 258,000. ASB fund, I can read that one. So it's at 161,000. And we have $207 left in the private fund, so just a little bit left though. TVF, we have 186,000.
Questions on financials?
When do we buy the next bus?
It's funny you mention that because we are about to jump into our transportation overview. And we're actually gonna discuss that right in there.
Doesn't it usually kind of work out when we get enough money in there, we usually start?
Yeah, so hold off into that. You're gonna see it's like on slide 3 or 4 in here, where we're gonna talk about that. So I jump into it, but I'm gonna steal her thunder, what she's gonna get into. So let me let her do that and then we'll do that. I wanna- But I'm excited to bring to you for the first time, Dana Stoltz, our transportation director this year. She has a lot of good information for you. And I know transportation is something we certainly want to talk about. She has brought to you all the information concerning just kind of routes, what we've got going on, some things that are new for her this year, some new things we're doing, and also kind of the nitty-gritty numbers on some information, which is including our depreciation schedule and inventory. So Dana, take it away.
Okay, on a most positive note, we have potentially 3 drivers coming in. 2 of them have already taken their tests to get their permits. They also work at a different place, so it's kind of been a little bit slow. And then I was contacted on Friday about another gentleman that just retired, semi-retired, that wants to come drive for us. So hopefully our driving numbers will go up. I did something different this year. Every time I talk to a parent, they're not sure who their bus driver is. So I sent out with the kindergartners and the transition kindergarten, I sent out a welcome back envelope. It gave kind of an introduction of all the routes and like information if they need to call or get a hold of us, email. I put a biography together of each of the drivers, some of it, kind of funny, just so that the parents can know that, we have families that are here or grandkids. In the envelope was some school bus safety and a coloring sheet. And then I also included my business card with my information on it that's on a magnet and then a fun pencil for the kids. So hopefully that will, put us out there. I haven't really had any mad parents call this year. I don't know if it's all because of that or, but in the funding reports for spring, we have, you can see the numbers there, 656, 25 in the walk areas, which is subtracted from the students on the buses. We have 12 sped and 8 preschool. And then that's the difference. We're up from fall. And we send this report in 3 times a year. So hopefully it will continue to go up because this is how we are funded by the students that are riding.
Just a reminder, look at that. So as we look at that, we approach this cautiously because obviously, again, that ridership, just like enrollment, drives that funding piece. So that's why she's talking to me about it. So transportation, it's another one of those, we gotta keep a watch and just see how our ridership plays out. Any questions on that part?
And then our non-funding report that we have to send in is on mileage, and this was for last year, because of course we can't do it this year yet. But it's kind of, interesting, we did 89,000 miles last year and 53,000 in fuel. And, the to and from mileage is just to and from school. Field trips is, you know, knowledgeable, anything like that. Sporting and other, could be, you know, like a kindergarten trip or something.
I don't want you to think we actually did 15,000 classroom field trips, or 1,500 classroom field trips last year, sorry. That does include extracurricular, athletics, and all those
Yeah.
pieces, so.
And we, also, we combined Route 3 and 6 together, so we have also only chartered one, sporting event this year. So that's a huge plus, and hopefully we will be getting some more drivers and we can definitely be on the better side for once.
Just a reminder, when we charter, you start at double the cost, and sometimes it triples the cost, versus our own yellow bus transporting that same trip. So again, while we talk about just keeping costs down in terms of that, we always wanna do the best we can to yellow bus that versus charter that. We only charter it if we have to, just because of the costs.
And then this is our fleet inventory for this year. The ones in green are still on depreciation. We have 3 coming off depreciation because the depreciation doesn't necessarily start the year that it was built. Like the 2015 buses, their depreciation started in 2013. Is that when they like reserve the chassis?
It's,
Or-
it's when, I'd have to go back and see exactly what that is, but
Yeah.
they have a turning factor that starts it once you get it ordered and once it gets started on that. I have to look at the specifics on the exact timing of that, but.
So we have only 4 buses off depreciation. And we have the 3 vans, of course, that are gonna be handy for smaller, like middle school girls wrestling. There's only 6 wrestlers, so we're able to use a van for that rather than taking a big bus to do that.
What's the average daily TriTech load of students?
We have, average depends, and why that's dependent is because a lot of their programs, some will be there and some are work site. So our numbers, I think we're around 9 students we have going to TriTech right now, but you don't always have 9 that ride. I know like the construction program, they're meeting in Pasco because they're completing a fence project in there, right? So they drive for little things, and each program has little nuances of when they're there. So it would be 9 or less.
So the new floors would be an option for that though, for the TriTech.
It's possible, yes.
Well, I don't
We're
think.
not right now, but
Yeah.
the question you're asking, is it an option? Yes. Is it something we want to pursue right now? No. Why we don't want to pursue that is because if we take that van, we don't get the transportation funding for that. If we take them in a yellow bus, then we can accrue the transportation funding for it. What's a funding mechanism?
Okay.
Now, could we, if we needed to, and have we once already this year? We had to because we were short and we didn't have that, and the superintendent became the bus driver that morning to take those kids on the van, because we were short, we had a staffing shortage that morning. So we'll call that.
Does anyone have any questions up till now?
So how do you see those vans working out for us? How do you anticipate they?
I think they're gonna be a great asset. The first thing is, just like our middle school girls wrestling, there's 6. by the time the season's half over, there might be 4. You know, and if we have a driver that's available that can do that, then they get first right of refusal for that. The football team took a van to, when they just went for playoffs and hauled all gear in it. So I think it's a great alternative to, for smaller things. When basketball goes to state, instead of renting vans, these are available for, coaches to drive, because then you're not gonna pay for someone, to go up and back every day. So I think it's gonna be a good thing. We're still trying to just, figure out our, procedures, I guess. I created some forms, and it's kind of a little bit tricky, because if they return the van after we're gone from the bus facility, then the gate's locked, and so then we put it up here at the admin, and so we're still working on those kind of things, but I think they're gonna be great assets to us.
I'll jump on one thing, because she's selling herself short on this. Dana's done a really good job of quickly turning this around. We quickly got some vans on site, and we've been talking about this for a number of years. But by the time, they were literally, hey, they're here delivered, we quickly put some procedures together, dealing with paperwork, dealing with calendar items. How do you reserve them? How do you get, what's our checks and balance on these pieces? She worked with Amber. They're working at a funding mechanism to where we begin creating that funding mechanism to help replace these down the road. So in a very short amount of time, they've put together, again, there'll be some things we're gonna tweak and do differently as we do this, but they very quickly did a very admirable job getting these things going. So she's probably not gonna stand up, and those two won't say that, but I'll say that for them, because they did a good job on that, so.
Well, if I can add, I've been coming to these meetings for a lot of years, and I don't think I've ever got this detailed a report about the transportation program and the new driver information and that, so I think it's great. Thank you very much.
Yes, of course.
Oh, we got more.
Yep. So our depreciation update, we have a bus in Pasco right now doing the pre-delivery inspection. It got there in November, a couple weeks ago, and they said it will take until December sometime for us to get it. So, we are on month 140 of 156 for this coming August for 3 of our buses. And then August of 26, we're gonna be in 152 of 156. So then that time, next December, is when we should start ordering those buses, because busing, you have to order a bus like a year in advance. They're getting a little bit better, but it's still, you can pretty much figure a year. And if we order our buses in December of 26, then they would potentially be here when we get our lump sum payment in August of 27. So we have a good plan worked out according to the vehicle fund, and we're still waiting for the bus, the new one.
So this is where working backwards, the planning you guys began with Dr. Gates how many years ago has really begun to play itself out, because, at the time we have these, the money's coming in to replace these. Many years ago, we took out a non-voted debt to purchase 3 buses all at one time. And I think, Amber, we finished paying that. You mentioned, I think. I want to make sure I got that right. And so with the money we've incurred with the depreciation, we had enough to get that one. So we were trying to split those 3, so we weren't having 3 come off all at one time again in the future, which is why you guys helped us move forward last year ordering the 1. And so then when we do this next one, we're only ordering 2, so that we're not doing this one lump sum all at one time. We're splitting these up. So that's what you're seeing here tonight. kudos to past planning. I was not part of any of that, but nice job.
And then our last, electric buses are becoming a thing. Walla Walla has, I think, 12 of them are ready. So Rich Sanner with RWC, they sell international buses. He came and they brought a brand new bus by, was really nice. It wasn't electric, it was diesel. And they were telling me that I knew about stuff going through the EPA, but I wasn't sure how you applied for a grant or anything. They said that they do all that themselves. Of course, I'm sure they get a kickback because they're, selling an electric bus. But we are a priority school, and I just got the email that shows or tells why we're a priority school. It has to do with some funding that we get, but we would be eligible for $325,000, which covers the did you see the email I
I
sent?
did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cause he said that
For instances.
yeah. So anyways, I don't know if that's something you guys wanna look into or pursue. Basically, we think and they think that, electric buses are gonna be the wave of the future and eventually we'll have to, and why not, go ahead and get one at maybe that would cost us 10% rather than 100%. The good thing about it that I see is that even though we may only pay 10%, we get the full depreciation. So we get the depreciation for 325, for the whole amount of the bus, not just the part that we pay. So a lot of schools are ordering them and not even necessarily using them all the time, but they're increasing their vehicle funds by doing that. Not saying that, that's the only reason you would do it, but I think as much as I don't want to, I think that we're headed in that direction. So I thought that this might be a good opportunity. They said that they would do, like a Zoom call or whatever if, when it comes time. The deadline is January 9th, and then they decide in March, because not every school gets it.
Let me jump in, or go ahead, and then I'll jump in and add some detail to help fill in the blanks on some of
The
this.
side conversations at the WASDA conference, there was a school district from up north of Spokane that had 2 electric buses, and they were really disappointed because in really cold weather,
Yeah.
they don't work well at all. So I thought, well, so how much colder is it up there than here? How about charging it? Have we got charging infrastructure out at the bus area?
Well, and that's one thing, because that's the first thing I asked him, and he said that they, that through the grant, it takes care of the charging and, pulling the power to where we need it or whatever. I don't know, I just was like, okay, well, maybe this is something we need to look into, just.
Dan and I began having this conversation less than a week ago, so, but, we've obviously were approached by someone, and they would obviously benefit from doing the grant work from that. So, it's certainly something I've talked to her about. I told her to absolutely bring it to you, just so you're aware that's something maybe you're possibly looking into. But just know there's a lot of things we need to look at before we go down this road. The things she and I have already dialogued about is, obviously, you have to look at the bus itself and its usefulness in terms of daily routes versus trips and how far they can go before they need to be recharged and all those things. So just the nuances of the bus itself is number one. 2 and 3, which is probably as important as those, would also be the charging pieces to this. And number 1, learning from the lessons learned of Walla Walla Public Schools, which would be do you even have the infrastructure to do that? Walla Walla, when they did that, again, they went through a grant piece, worked with REA and had to get some special things just to get the power brought to them. There are other local districts around our state, not necessarily saying right here though, that they just, based on where their community is, they can't get the power structure to that, right? So there's some nuances of that. The other one I was also cautioned to make sure we take a look at is the pricing of the charging stations in that and of itself, because the charging stations are not currently part of the depreciation schedule piece. And you have to invest X amount of dollars, so you'd hope to get that grant funded versus paying it out of your district. But I know from talking with them, they're working legislatively right now to see if they can include which it's not, which is why I'm being upfront about this. It's not part of the depreciation piece. You can see if that was in and of itself, because there's a lifeline that you have to turn those over every so many years as well too. Those charging, only last so long. So there are a lot of things we have to think about and consider as we go through this. We just started talking about it, and I thought it was told it's appropriate, bring it to you guys to know we're beginning to engage in conversations about this. The state certainly, I say the state, at the state level, they're pushing a lot of districts to move this with all the clean energy type stuff, but certainly it's got to make sense for us. So just know we're beginning to have conversations. I want to open up to you. If you have any thoughts, ideas, concerns, likes, dislikes, any of that, I want to bring it to your attention. So.
I don't think we're in a position just to do cutting edge stuff just to do it. It's gotta make sense financially or, something. Something's gotta make it right for the top. Feels like we just gotta wait until we're forced to do it.
What's the price of an electric bus compared to a diesel?
More expensive.
More than $325,000 difference?
I would want to double check on that. I can tell you the previous prices I looked at, they were higher than that, but again, you gotta look at a specific type of bus. How much, what's the capacity, all those things. So,
What did we spend on fuel?
It's two-
56,000?
58, yeah.
58?
What?
One of the previous slides showed that we spent 58,000 on fuel over a year.
Right.
That was 1 year,
For the whole fleet.
for the whole fleet.
53.
There it is, 53.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, it's a good point. That's why we have this here.
I guess my input would be to proceed very cautiously. When you look at these people who are so willing to help you, my radar always kind of goes up on a deal like that. Maybe seems like a deal that's too good to be true in the whole final analysis of it.
But if it makes sense, bring it back. I mean, anything that makes sense.
We gotta look at that. She brings up some good points in what she's talking about in terms of, if I'm gonna use hypotheticals, if we were in a situation like we were many years ago where we needed to secure money to get buses on depreciation so you can start building that capital, and someone's willing to grant you dollars for that, even if it sits there, and you begin getting capital for that, and you use an old bus, which some districts are because they can begin doing that, and someone else is purchasing that for you. Again, I'm not suggesting you should, because I don't think that's necessarily a good way of doing business on that, but, there are ways that people are doing things to help themselves. We're fortunate enough to not have to be in that position, so.
Thank you for a very detailed report all the way through. It was really good.
Thanks, Dana.
Do they have hybrid buses? Is that such a thing?
I thought they have propane.
I just saw something on propane today on that one. The state, you could go on to OSPI, anyone could. If you knew where to go on the OSPI website, you can see the pre-bid contracts for this year. You go to a certain spot, and again, you gotta know where to go and where to find it. But if you want to OSPI, you can literally look every single state bus they have, and you got a flat bid price on it. They do that for all 295 public schools, so you know what that bus is gonna cost you. You've got the big buses, you've got the smaller buses, you've got ones with lift, you've got electric, all those are all on there. different types of engines. So it's literally just a spreadsheet. You're gonna go out and you're gonna say, I want this bus, I'm gonna look over, you can see the retail number and you can see the state bid price. So it's not that difficult to find out. All of this is timing and working your depreciation payments in there, trying to figure all those pieces out.
That's probably the intriguing thing of this one is what you get on the depreciation schedule. Not so much the upfront cost, but what they're paying you on your depreciation schedule.
So I think it's something we'll look into. But again, we want to bring it to you, just saying, look, you know, it certainly doesn't hurt for us to take a look and sort out our facts.
Like it. And if you ever think it's gonna be mandated that we switch to this option, somewhere down the road.
We had a conversation from Dan Payne last year at the ESD, and they talked about, that was one of the big questions, at what point, you know, is there, and it's, you know, that answer's pretty quick, it's too early to tell on that, you know. And even if they did that, his belief was, our regional transfer recorder, they would phase it in over a series of years, so you'd have the ability to network that through your depreciation schedule. They wouldn't require districts to go in, you can imagine, we're small compared to most, but when you think of other fleets, you know, you truly can't, they can't produce them at the volume you did if you needed everyone to switch over. So the way they perceive that going is if they went that way, it would do a phase in over so many years. So you'd have time to plan and prepare for that. I mean, as it is right now, we order a bus, we can't get it for a year, and that's a diesel motor one. Imagine trying to do something sudden and abrupt.
And the depreciation schedule is running for that year.
Or before.
So, any questions for her before we move on?
Thanks again, Dana.
Thank you.
You being here. Okay, I'm gonna move on to reports, if you're good with that.
Yep, Wazda?
Okay, so, fresh off our trip from WASDA, literally just, seems like yesterday, because it almost was. Michael and I had an opportunity to attend the WASDA conference last Thursday through Saturday in Spokane. I just wanted to highlight something that I was impressed with, and I'll let Michael kind of jump into any thoughts that he had. But I had the opportunity to listen to Jeff Utek. You've probably heard me say his name before. He is, quote unquote, the AI guru, kind of Washington State. When I say that, I mean, he's literally at OSPI helping figure out policy procedure at a state level, trying to figure out what we do and how we go about doing that. And he had a very interesting conversation, a keynote, talking about bridging generations. And you can see I put it there, leading education into the AI era. And what was fascinating for me was the way he discussed AI and technology in general in terms of just generations. And talked about everything from the baby boomers all the way down to Gen Alpha. Again, there's all dates and times and how that plays out. But I certainly don't want to speak for him, but if I was to bottle his message up into AI, which is, it's here and it's not going anywhere, whether you like it or not. And so we better get our arms wrapped around it and figure out how we begin using this as a tool. Whether you have preconceived notions of whether it's good or bad, doesn't matter. And he says it very just matter-of-factly, because it is a tool that we need to teach our students how to use, just like everything else. And my analysis for that as he went through that was, at one point in time, if you go back to the abacus and the slide rule and things like that, at one point the calculator was the piece. And, well, you didn't want to do the calculator because you need to memorize your math facts. And then it went to Google, and, well, we're using Google now because we don't have to use encyclopedias anymore. AI is just another generated piece that we have to teach and educate our kids how to go about using that. I can provide you many examples even as of today about its uses and how it supports. And if you don't know how to use it, it can't help you on certain things. And so there really is a push that at the state level, we'll see, I believe, playing out over the next several years. How do we go about harnessing this and using it as a tool to help support what we're already doing? That was my 2 cents. Michael, what would you like to add?
Well, I went to a conference the day before. There's a little conservative group called the Conservative Caucus. It's mostly small schools, but some bigger schools have joined it. They had a conference the day before on Wednesday. They had some fairly interesting data. They talked about the big slide we had in math scores that correlated with COVID and how we're ever gonna try to catch those students up to where they should be in math. And it's not just our district's problem, it's all over the state. They talked some about that. They talked about a real emotional, passionate, hot button, the business of biological males competing in, you know, girls' sports and how you deal with that and all the baggage that comes with that. Liberty Bell, the town of Winthrop had a real high-profile case. Half the districts are kind of on the, do the resolution like Kennewick and some other schools did, and half the districts are saying, wait for it to sort out through the legal process. And the people who are looking at that say, well, if you can predict if you're gonna have that problem, you better pass a resolution. If you can predict you won't have that problem, then you can wait for the legal thing to sort out, which I thought was a kind of a funny way to look at it. Everybody is still grumbling about the funded shortage in MSOC, and what's the other one again?
Well, we're pushing for SPED.
SPED.
Fully fund and special education and ZOCs and just your materials, operational costs. The other one's escaping me right now.
I came away from that really grateful. Poor Tukwila, that's kind of the industrial area of Seattle, kind of where Boeing Field is. They've been in binding conditions for 2 years. They're in really bad money trouble. We look at the trouble Moses Lake is in, we look at the trouble Richland is in. And we're really grateful that we've either been more fortunate or lucky or blessed or more proactive because we're not in those places. One of the slides that I thought about it the whole time. I was going to send it to the board, but I can't. I haven't done it yet, but I want to read it here. One of the directors put up a slide that they took in testimony to OSPI. It was talking about more state mandates pushed to all the districts. And she said, "I'm opposed because I believe each district should exercise local control and be trusted to use their broad discretionary powers to use curriculum that best fits their unique community. We don't want any more required mandates from the state, especially progressive ones that take away our broad discretionary powers." And I thought about our 4 board members. Do we ever consider that we have broad discretionary powers? Have we ever thought about it that way? I thought about that ever since she put it up there. Do I really have broad discretionary powers as a school board member? When I started 26 years ago, I think I had more than I have now because we didn't have as many mandates from the state about how to do things that have kind of closed that box in that window. One of the WASDA breakouts talked about the diminishing local support for bonds and to a lesser extent levies. It's getting harder and harder. More and more people across the state are anti-tax. One of the more interesting pitches, one voting constituent said, "Sure, I'll support you for a new school, but I don't want to pay for it. Have somebody else pay for it." So anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to go, and I think it's important to keep an eye on these things as they come down the pipe.
It's a good conference, so appreciate you going. Questions?
Thanks for going. Representing.
All right, the next one I'm going to shift to is the district capital improvement plan. And I say plan, it's not so much as a plan written in stone, but it's something we're working towards. If I move backwards, I want to talk a little bit about a reminder. The long-term facilities plan that was completed by our district in May of 2023 with support of Design West. They came and looked at that, and we created a long-term facilities plan that outlined the age of our facilities and the conditions and had kind of thoughts and ideas for future improvement. Beneath that, I wanted to bring, because I always want us to be at the forefront of things we're talking about and discussing, because as even Michael mentioned with bonds and levies, we've obviously, the last time our capital levy and bond were not successful the last couple of attempts. We've been very fortunate, EP&O levies have been able to to make it through, so we feel very supported and fortunate for that on that one. But I just want to bring these back to your attention because we discussed kind of some of these pieces through the work that we do quarterly at district safety committees. Sometimes these things come up. But if you're really to look back and say, what are the capital needs still across the district? I wanted to bring these things back to your attention. If you had any other thoughts, we can certainly add to this. But we're kind of just continuing to keep a tabulation on what are the things that come up throughout the year. So if we look at this specifically, district capital facility needs at the elementary school, we're obviously in the middle of adjusting our parent pickup and drop off, our remodel on that. We've begun that. We started with the fencing because in order to make that happen, we had to expand the parking in the rear behind the elementary school. Again, this is to alleviate the traffic congestion that we have out in front of our elementary school. We're, again, partially midway through this project. We haven't set aside the funds to complete all of this yet, but we're still working through that piece. Like I said, we've done the parking pieces. Really what's left on this one is the striping and the actual paint, down on the asphalt. But what we're hoping to do is extend that parent pickup and drop-off lane probably almost 3 times its current size. That would get a lot more cars in, and we're hoping to get parents moving through that as a safety issue for our students. So just know that's kind of still out there. We're working through that. Any questions on that?
So staff was supposed to start parking in the back. Has that been communicated? I mean, I've driven by a couple of times and it looks pretty bare back there and it's still super busy out front. I don't know if that's new staff or.
Well, we're still moving the parking spaces, and that was just done more so just recently, right? So once we finish that up, I mean, we literally just, I want to say in the last week or two, began moving some of those bumpers the back there. So eventually that will be done as part of that project.
I just believe that those best parking spots should be for the taxpayers that come in and, need to visit the school. It shouldn't be for the first staff member that shows up. I mean, I really believe strongly in that, and hopefully we're moving in that direction.
Well, what will happen through this is that obviously the parking will be reduced out front, right? Because that's why we've made space for that in the back. And through that process, we're able to at least double, if not triple, the visiting parking spaces marked out front once the markings have been done on that. But again, you're missing that whole part right now. So we've just been operating business as usual right now until we're able to finish those final parts of the project.
Thank you.
Middle school, the middle school boys' bathroom, and this is in the commons, the bathroom's right off there. We still have a plumbing project that we're eventually gonna have to take on. If you were to walk in the boys' restrooms, the standing urinals, there's a series of standing urinals. The first urinal can't be used, and that's been basically out of service for a little over a year. What's happened, we actually, because it wasn't draining, we actually brought someone in. We had them, you snake it to see what's going on under there. And over time, that pipe has literally just crumbled and disintegrated on itself, so it's no longer even useful. The problem is, in order to get to that, you're gonna have to demo a lot of other pieces right now. So right now, we've just decommissioned that one. You still have about 8 or 9 urinals there to use, but no, that's something we have to figure out how we wanna deal with that long-term. That's the plumbing, and again, the unknown piece is, well, what are we gonna do with that? What's that cost once you start getting into it? There's an unknown factor to that. We have a base cost to get in and if we want to start ripping it out, but once you get in there, it's an unknown piece. So just want to bring that to your attention. I'm always of that we need to plan long-term we don't put Band-Aid fixes on things. So we've just decommissioned the one, and we're gonna look at that and how that plays out over the length of time of that building. Gym bathrooms, that was obviously in some of the past bond and levy measures. Those are the gym bathrooms in the gym area. We're looking at remodeling those because they do not provide adequate ADA access to our community. When we have gym events and things like that, we have to open our schools up so that our buildings can provide the ADA access. So I just don't ever want us to lose sight of that. what we've done is we've had the price back when we went through that, and we've added a little inflation over the years. So that's where you're getting those price points for. Remodeling of the old middle school locker rooms. Reminder, that is the final place in that building that has asbestos. It's contained, so it's nothing there. And no one uses those spaces anymore. It's just in the old locker rooms. It's actually in the word I'm trying to use, the insulation of the pipes that are up there. But the $1.5 million piece that was done by Design West, that was to redesign the entire place. So you're gonna get some sort of useful space out of that. If it was ever designed to just truly demolish and get rid of it, you'd have cheaper options than that, but you're losing that space. But that was to redesign it into some sort of space, usable space for either classroom, office space, or something. So again, just don't want you to forget about those price tags on that one. If we move to the high school, the southeast corner of the track, that's that little triangle piece if you're driving on Humorous that was never finished back there. We had some ideas of doing some things with some cement work and things like that. We're just kind of waiting for the right time in our budget to do. It's a small project like that. We had some thoughts and ideas of moving on that, but we had some other cement work that took priority for steps and railings that it was a safety issue that we decided to move that money towards some of those pieces first. So we'll come back and clean up that small little corner. We don't want to forget about that. High school auditorium, this would basically be renovating the equipment of the high school auditorium. Again, that was also part of a past bond capital project piece. This is for all like the sound equipment. That equipment, reminder it's in there, you think about what you have at home, is over 20 plus years old. And so you think of audio equipment you have that's 20 plus years old. Murr likes to remind me and Andrew that there is one single wire holding all that together up there. And that's not exaggeration. I really mean that. There's one single wire up there that keeps all that going right now. So it still works. The facility is an amazing facility, and that's what's great about it. You look at it, it's like, it doesn't look like anything needs to be done here. But it's the behind-the-scenes things that you don't see in terms of, we had to fix lighting in the past because of the heat of those lights that literally melted things. We were fortunate we've been able to deal with things, so that was a safety issue in the past. We've already taken care of that. But we haven't finished any of the sound or audio upgrades, which you're looking at that time 3 years ago was a $500,000 project. You're looking at somewhere between $600,000 and $700,000 now, okay? Because it just gets more expensive as time goes on. The gym bleacher seats, these are the high school bleachers. I would love to tell you that I would love to go in and fix those bleachers like right now before the season. But you can see that's $100,000 to $150,000 project, and we just don't have it to pull that out of the general fund and do that right now. You're seeing they're broken. Each season that goes on, they're getting worse. We have exhausted the last of our remaining pieces for replacement parts, and they don't make replacement parts that fit our current. It's a molded seat. We can buy the new ones, but they don't match anymore. And they don't match by height and any of that, so you're gonna sit on it and you're gonna sit, one's gonna sit, I'm trying to be facetious about it, but like one cheek's gonna be higher than the other when you're sitting on those bleachers. Because the new seats, of course, they've promised they're reinforced and they're not gonna break like they do with this new polymer material they have. But the way you put them in, they're not gonna line up. And we talked about, you're gonna pinch your behind when you sit down there. I'm trying to say that nicely, but they're busted, they're breaking if you've been there, and I know it's an eyesore. I look at it and I cringe when I look at it, but again, we just don't have $150,000 right now to pull that out and do that. At least I certainly wouldn't suggest to the board we do that.
So if we replaced all the high school, would we be able to use those for the middle school, the existing seats for any repairs?
Ones that are in good shape, yeah, I would think so. Our middle school bleachers are gorgeous.
So we don't have any issues?
Whatever, there's nothing broke there. They just don't get the wear and tear. Students, assemblies, all those things. I mean, I'm gonna knock on wood because I don't want to jinx myself, Ivy, here, but I don't think there's a single broken piece on those middle school bleachers right now.
All that I've seen.
But yeah, so.
I did have a question on the auditorium.
Yeah.
We did the lights already, or?
We've done some of the lights. We've been able to do some over a series of multiple pieces. Several years ago, we did some LEDs on the, I don't know the word, we'll call them sconces and some of those pieces on that. Just last year, we did the emergency lighting with general funds. Again, we've been trying to piece things together. Whenever we have money, we throw things at it for safety issues. And last year, we were able to put, I want to say $20,000 or $30,000 towards those emergency lights because they went down on us. So we do what we can every year. We pick off little projects, but these are not, with the exception of one or two things, these are not your $10,000 or $20,000 projects.
So what I was thinking of is a lot of times there's grant opportunities for lighting and those kind of things, especially when you can go way better efficiencies. So I don't know if we've already tackled that or whether there's opportunities there, but.
Or the small schools, to me, part of the small schools modernization fund might apply to some of this.
Well, it could, if you look back, I'm gonna hold on that because there's a $6 million project for the small schools modernization we're already kind of beginning to work towards, but, could be, so.
Add a little bit more to it.
Say that again?
Just add a little bit more to it.
We've maxed that one out. Actually, you can ask for, I'll get to that when we get there, so. But any more on the high school? If we move to the district, door security, again, we've been fortunate enough, we've been able to recently upgrade some of our door security. What we've been able to do is what we call the emergency hardware. For instance, that's our handles and our crash bars. We had issues with that where they weren't functioning and working. We've been able to replace those in two different buildings. Everything's functioning as it should. So we are back where we need to be with that, feeling great about that. The problem is what we're itching is there's three parts to those doors. You've got your hardware, you've got your electric or your fob access, right? And the third part of that is your cores. It's literally just a key, you can pull cores and do that. We are, in the next 3 to 4 years, we've been given a warning, heads up, the cores that we have, the door handles and everything will work with it, but you really pop it in, they're no longer gonna be able to make those cores in the next 3 to 4 years because we've been using them for the last 15 to 20 years. We'll have to, for instance, just literally flip the page, and I'm making this up, instead of using the F-series core, we have to use the G-series cord or whatever. So that's gonna be about you can see, we anticipate a $30,000 project. We can do that all in-house. It's literally, there's keys for that. You pop them in, put a new cord, but then you gotta deal with keys. When we're able to do that, let's move to the next one, which is the electric security access, which was part of both bond and capital project. You're looking at about a $150,000 project for that one. This is to upgrade. Keep in mind, over the summer, if Andrew Moore here would tell you, we put $5,000, again, small money, towards a system that failed us over the summer. I've been saying for many years, it's a Band-Aid fix, but in order to replace that system, it's $150,000 piece. What we call the main brain of it, which is held at the middle school, went out on us. And they told us when that goes out, we will not be able to replace this. We no longer have the equipment for this. And so what we did is we bought the cheapest upgrade we could, because to take the next step of that would have been bringing in products that we wouldn't have had any of our electric door access ready to go for our students, at least until about January, middle of this year. And we knew we had to have that to start school day one. So we put kind of a $5,000 Band-Aid on it. It upgraded it to a cloud-based server, which is pretty cool. I don't want to give you all the nuts and bolts on it, but it's pretty cool that I can literally open and unlock doors, from my phone. If I need to on some of those things in an emergency situation. So there were some advantages to it, but keep in mind, we're at a basement deal on this, and we're just waiting for those to go out on us. They'll still service those parts, and we still have a small backup system on that one, so we're still able to fix those. But again, we're on borrowed time with our electronic security access piece. If I continue with the good news, being facetious there. Parking lot pavement, if you've driven across our parking lots, we just need some help in our parking areas. We have been able to pack those with kind of from year in, year out. I'm talking to Sean. We're actually going to look at throwing a little bit of money towards some equipment to actually get some compactors and do it well versus just throwing cold patch down. But outside of that, if you wanted to start over, you'd literally be talking, you're in the hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're redoing parking lots. So right now, we're just trying to keep things going. We know we have areas, if you've driven back by the the baseball field in the corner, lots of parking lot issues. You're starting to see some potholes coming into the back of the gym area where the water's settling. Right behind the elementary, we've got the brand-new parking area. We've got several spots that need to be redone. And obviously, coming up the ramp, we've got some potholes. Those have been historic, but we're looking at fixing those with a compactor. And we've developed some new ones in the high school parking lot. So just a few holes here and there, but we know it's something we want to work on over time. Last one would be the district HVAC updates. We are looking at updating our HVAC across our system. We are looking at doing this through the Small Schools District Modernization Grant. We've already got that information in. We're waiting to get on the list and get on the planning side. Keep in mind, this is a multi-year project. But the hope is we're seeking $6 million. That's where they cap you at. And we're looking to renovate our entire district's HVAC system. We're just trying to get in line to get this done because that would obviously be a large project. There is money out there for that grant dollars. We can do that. We wouldn't have to go ask our local voters to put in for that if we can get in line for that. But that would basically be updating all our HVAC equipment. We've had to, here and there do an HVAC equipment piece here and there. But the majority, when you're looking at what we have out here, our best equipment is our oldest equipment that's functioning without the money. If you look at our Apollo bills, where they're going to our most recent equipment. Hand and fist over in Nakia can tell you it's the high school. And that's our newest equipment at between 20 to 25 years old now. Again, we're fortunate that they're industrial things, but if your newest equipment's 25 years old, you need to start making some plans to reinvest in some HVAC equipment. And to simply say, the district, hey, we're gonna replace our HVAC equipment, and seeking about $6 million to do that when our entire budget's what, 12? Any given year, $12 million budget in revenue? Okay, it's just not possible, which is why you see small schools getting in line for this. And then the last part I want to bring to you is just the unknown, growth and development. This is always just a wait and see, but we know if at any point in time we were to grow, and we're not anticipating that right now, but we're watching that very carefully. We would know that the new school, we would have to start just in terms of that, would have to be at the primary or elementary school, depending on how that took place. Right now, that is the place in our district where we have the least amount of place to grow. So, I want to bring all that back to you, saying we do have a list. We know certain things, and we look every year to try and pick off little things as we can. But know at some point, providing all this continues to go well, everything's fine. But when it doesn't, we'll have to figure those parts out. Are there any questions on that? Did I miss anything that people have talked to you about? Okay. All right, can I move on, unless you have any thoughts, suggestions?
Please do.
Okay. MTSS update, I'm excited. Quick reminder, I've talked to you about this before, but I'm gonna bring this back to yours. We've been working on this, and I've talked with our building team, wanted to bring you up to date where we're at. Reminder, MTSS, multi-tiered system to support. It's what we're doing this year with professional development to ensure every child has all their needs met. Excited about, we're working our second year working with Dr. Hoyt at the district level. She's been out working with our building teams. This year we've really pushed PBIS, Positive Behavioral Intervention and Supports. This is what we're using to help support the positive classroom environment piece, reinforcing behavior, teaching those pieces. And a new tool that we have at our disposal this year is SWIS, which is School-Wide Information Systems. I want to get you all the acronyms so you know what we're talking about. But it's a tool that we use to track behavior data. This is a tool that we have not had. We've kind of had Skyward, but it's not been quite as friendly to use, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about it and show you some examples. So, communications at the district level, we're working on a communications plan, and we actually have a district level team. We're working on developing that communications plan so we can make sure we're communicating with our community and our board a little bit better. This is part of that. I'm communicating with you on what those, and there's some steps involved in this. At the elementary level, talked with our team leads and our principal there. They're working on creating some structure around playground safety, structure and games, really reinforcing with classroom pieces on safe, respectful, responsible. And I want to jump into that one because I've mentioned to you before, the elementary is really, dare I say, I want to say almost a year ahead, pretty close to where our middle school and high school buildings are. They had the ability to jump into the stuff a little bit earlier. And so when I say they're doing some of these things, I talk about the middle school and high school, keep in mind, the elementary school is at least a good 6 years to a year ahead of where some of the other buildings are based on just the work they put into this. They kind of got started early on it. And the building staff embraced the work because it was a need they had based on with the students that were coming into them, having to support behavioral supports pieces on it. And we're still at the tip of the iceberg on these pieces. Middle school, new this year, they have set up a new positive behavioral recognition system that's brand new to them this year. And they're beginning to use the Swiss data to analyze that and reteach. I'm going to show you some of that stuff here in a little bit. The high school has launched their specific building expectation. We talk about that. You've seen it all across our district. You're seeing the posters. You're seeing the areas that we talk about the specific expectations on reteaching those in the classroom. I'm pleased, again, that this is a district-wide approach. It all looks different, but we're all having same common conversations using same verbiage and same language. Question you might be asking, you're asking me, thinking of asking me is, so what do we know so far? Well, we know elementary school has seen a decrease in inappropriate behaviors. Now, I don't want to say that we don't see inappropriate behaviors. I'm not here to say like we fixed it, because that's far from anything I'm saying. Don't misquote me on any of this stuff. But we are seeing a decrease in a lot of these pieces, just based on referrals, what we're seeing from one year to the next, okay? Both the middle school and high school have had a drop in office referrals already to start the year. And let me show you some things. This is Swiss, okay? You can pull this at any point in time. This is the data pieces we have at building and district level teams. You've heard me talk to you a lot about iReady. I've talked to you about the academic piece of stuff in the past, and I said at some point I'll be talking to you about building stuff. Please, please, please keep in mind, we are at the very beginning pieces on this. So do not draw too many conclusions on this because we're just getting our feet wet with a lot of this stuff. But no, we're beginning to have conversations and look at this is what it means for our buildings. So in this building, you can see the average number of referrals per day. And by referrals, we're not talking about like suspensions. These are just things we're addressing and how we're addressing and talking to students about behavior in the classroom. You can see the number of referrals from 1 month to the next. And we've kind of had some conversations that early on you probably over-identify a lot of these things because you're trying to catch it all. And you begin to hone that down a little bit more. You can look at referrals by types of behavior. So then you can look at things like disruptions and defiance, all the way down to dress codes, threats, disrespect, harassment. So we can kind of look at these. We can pull all of these down to the individual student. I am not going to show you any groups or students tonight for obvious reasons, but I can tell you we can drill all this information down individually to a student if we need to. We can drill it down to a classroom. We can drill it down to some different things, but let me just, Michael, go ahead.
What's the very far right high graph M contact?
Contact. I knew you were going to ask me that. And I asked that one, and I'm not remembering what that was now. I asked that question about 2 o'clock today. It has to do with obviously inappropriate contact, though. It's not a good thing. So, anyone?
I think it's a major referral for physical contact.
Major referral? Yes.
Basically fighting.
No, fighting is right in the middle.
Punching would be physical contact, or like slapping, or like looking under the
This is
desk.
like a fight. So we have a whole piece that literally outlines what each of these are from one of the other. And in certain buildings, certain times we've like gone through, well, is this a this or is this a this, right? Trying to get clear about these pieces. So keep going. Here's looking at, you can find it by location. Okay. You can get the referrals by the time of the day. So you can start looking, is this, something's happening in the morning, something in the evening, or is this lunch, or what's going on? Where are these things happening? Right? Okay, we can look at things. Now, down below there, if I was to remove that black box down there, those are student codes. This is where you can get down to, these are any students in this building with 3 or more referrals. Now we can start figuring out what's going on, how do we talk, do we need to make plans, or do we already have a plan for this? You know, how are we supporting these children? So we can begin looking at these pieces, okay? You can look at it by days of the week. You can look at it by specific grades. You want to look at, hey, what's this grade as they transition to this? How are we seeing? Is it just, I'm making this up, no assumptions, but is it just that fourth grade group? Is it just that high school, those juniors, or the seniors? They're done by now, right? They need to be, I mean, you can look at all these pieces. You can break it down by male, female, by gender. We can break it down about any different things, and that's the power of this stuff. By putting these things into, Skyward did not have the ability to do all this stuff for us. So as our building teams come together, they're talking about these, and they're looking at these things saying, I'm going to make this up. And please, this is not a correct answer, but I'm just saying, hey, it looks like something's going on at lunch. What are we doing? How do we go about having conversations? Do we need to reteach? When we come back from Christmas, we're going to reteach the playground expectations. I'm just making this up as an example, right? You'd use these pieces and begin saying, what is the data? It's not just, oh, I'm tired at the end of the day, and it's going on a gut feel. It's, what does the data tell us? Are we making informed decisions as a building? Again, this is big picture, and we can narrow it down to the individual student eventually. This is Swiss. You guys want to add anything to that? I didn't ask. I'm just putting it on the spot, but just okay. I might as well ask. They helped with this. So, there's Lisa. Lisa, that's Dr. Hoyt. She was in there last year with us. She'll be back with us in January again, but she helps push us along. So, any questions from the board? I promised you, I said I'd be communicating with you. This is academic behavior. We're pushing these together. This is some of the data. Again, we're very early on this, so this is all very definitive. And you can't get too precise with this yet. We're just still trying to figure this out. But at some point, I said we'd be able to look at measures on both pieces, and we're beginning to see these pieces, and it'll continue to play itself out. We'll get better at this as time goes. So, like it? Anything?
Well, sadly to me, what it really is to me, it's just an extension of the disintegrating ability of all members of society to get along and treat each other well. I mean, you know, as adults, we're not doing as well now as what we were 30 or 40 years ago in political discourse, in how we get along. We just don't. And it's manifesting in our children too.
That's a fair statement. We would all like to say our children come in and know exactly how to behave and sit down and sit crisscross applesauce. I don't have to talk. I mean, they understand kindergarten comes in and things like that, right? We have to, and we don't live in a society that they come just knowing those pieces. But let's take that and change that. We can't say that about the adults in our society either. So if we can't expect the adults to act that way, how can we hold students to a standard that the adults can't even reach, right? So we have to be proactive, and we've had to take a step back and say, we need to develop a system to where we're ensuring we talk and teach kids, because some kids don't come with those skills. And I know you know this, and they know this, it's a broken record, but it's these soft skills that take us away from being able to achieve these academic skills. That's the interference piece. So, okay, I'm sorry I'm talking a lot. Anything else, though?
Policies.
Okay, policy. We have 5 policies to bring to you tonight, and my apologies. I totally spaced it until you said that. Normally, I've been putting essential on here. I believe they're all essential. I'll bring that certainly back to you in the second reading. I've thoroughly looked at those, feel really good about all these pieces and have no questions on it. I could go through them individually with you if you'd like, but a lot of this has to do with, these first 2 opioid related overdose and the anaphylaxis piece. These are things I've worked with our district nurse on. These are things that we have procedures already, and they're updating some pieces in policy that we need to make sure that fit with what we're doing.
Who is our district nurse?
Mrs. Brigatti.
And we have, there's no impact. We have the procedures, people trained.
She oversees all that. I've communicated with her on both of those. And we're really just getting things in line with the latest information. And we already have procedures set up for these pieces. The employment piece, we're already doing, but they've changed some information on that, so that's the 5005 policy number, it's stuff we're already doing. Policy's catching up with our current procedure. The infectious disease really is just terminology and housekeeping. Transportation, if I was to give you a quick 10-second update on that one, we all know what happened in Pasco last year. And they've now created things on trespassing for transportation.
That incident is what drove this.
I'm certainly had something to do with it. I don't know if that was the single, like, I'm sure it tipped the scale, but I mean, that's basically what it's addressing, that just not anyone can step on a bus. It's considered trespassing. So, feel very good about it, have no questions, concerns, but I invite you, if you have questions, concerns, to please let me know.
Mr. Hilberg?
Yes.
I need to go pick my brother up.
Please do so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was waiting.
Normally I'm much shorter with our meetings, so I apologize.
Okay, I didn't know I needed to till like 10 minutes ago.
Okay, you're good. Thanks for being here, though.
Thank you, Ivy.
I'll bring back next month for the second reading, this is still just first reading.
Any further questions on these?
Board calendar review, we'll bring back policy next month, and it'll play out as we normally do. We'll pay the bills. Anything you want brought to you?
I will not be here that day.
Okay. We're looking down the road. Keep in mind, as we get closer after the new year, we'll be bringing in the port. Pat Ray will be joining us. I'll work on scheduling that. You'll start hearing things more about the port. He said he's agreed to come in. I've also have Corey Plager from D.A. Davidson will come in and see us at some point in the spring, so I'll be lining some of these up as the weather gets warmer. That's all I have.
Anything further for the good of the board? We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just a minute.